Imagine a web of deceit spun from simple pieces of paper. No guns, no masks, just a clever pen and a checkbook. This is check kiting, a silent crime with devastating consequences that could land you behind bars for years. But what is check kiting, and how deep does the deception go? Let's unravel this intricate scheme and explore the chilling reality of check fraud. What is check kiting? Check kiting is like a dangerous juggling act involving multiple bank accounts and checks. It works like this. Imagine you have two bank accounts. Let's call them account A and account B. A person writes a check from account A to account B, knowing full well that there isn't enough money in account A to cover that check. But here's the catch. Before the check bounces, they write another check from account B back to account A, creating an illusion of funds moving between the accounts. In essence, it's a game of musical chairs with checks, hoping the music never stops. The fraudster is buying time, floating non-existent money between accounts to cover the gap, usually with the hope of obtaining actual cash or legitimate funds before the deception collapses. But make no mistake, the clock is ticking and the law is catching up. Is check fraud a federal crime? Check fraud, including check kiting, is not just a petty crime, it's a federal offense. That's right. When you mess with the banking system, you're not just committing fraud. You're violating federal laws that govern financial institutions. And here's why it's serious. Banks are federally insured, which means when someone defrauds a bank, it's not just the bank's money on the line, it's taxpayer money, too. The federal government takes these crimes very seriously. Fraud that crosses state lines or involves federally insured banks escalates the crime from a state-level offense to a federal case. It's like stepping from the minor leagues straight into the major leagues of criminal activity. The stakes are higher, and so are the penalties. Who investigates check fraud? So who hunts down these crafty check kiters? The FBI, the Secret Service, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service are all on the case. These agencies are armed with technology, expertise, and a relentless pursuit of justice. You see, check fraud isn't just about stealing money. It's about undermining the integrity of the financial system. And that makes it a priority for federal investigators. The FBI often steps in for cases involving larger sums of money or when the scheme crosses state lines. The Secret Service, traditionally known for protecting presidents, has another mission, safeguarding the nation's financial infrastructure. Meanwhile, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service gets involved when the fraud uses mail services, which is surprisingly common in these schemes. These agencies have sophisticated tools at their disposal, advanced software that can track transactions in real time, forensic accountants who can spot inconsistencies that would fly over a regular person's head, and a network of informants and tipsters who provide crucial leads. And once they're on your trail, it's a game you're unlikely to win. Can you get arrested for check fraud? Absolutely. And the arrest is just the beginning of your troubles. Check fraud is treated as a serious crime, and law enforcement doesn't take it lightly. Once the authorities have gathered enough evidence, they will arrest the suspect, and from there, the legal process begins. It starts with an investigation, followed by charges, and ultimately, a trial. And here's where it gets tricky. Check kiting isn't always straightforward. The accused might argue that they had the intent to cover the checks with legitimate funds, or that it was an innocent mistake. But remember, ignorance of the law is no defense. When the prosecution proves that there was intent to defraud, that's when the gavel comes down hard. How long do you go to jail for check fraud? So if convicted, how long could you end up behind bars for check fraud? The penalties vary depending on the scale of the fraud and whether it's tried at the state or federal level. At the federal level, check kiting can land you in prison for up to 30 years and hit you with fines up to $1 million. That's right, 30 years. That's almost a lifetime for some. But even on the state level, the consequences are severe. In many states, check fraud involving large sums can be classified as a felony, leading to several years in prison. And it's not just about the time you'll serve. Convictions come with a criminal record, which can affect everything from employment to housing, casting a long shadow over your future. What makes check fraud so insidious is that it's often carried out by individuals who, on the surface, appear to be upstanding members of the community. Business owners, accountants, even ordinary people who find themselves in financial trouble. Anyone can be tempted by the lure of fast money, but the consequences are far-reaching, ruining reputations, destroying families, and upending lives. The true cost of check kiting. But here's the most haunting part of check kiting. It's not just the perpetrator who suffers. This crime has ripple effects that extend far beyond the banks. When banks incur losses, they tighten lending criteria, raise fees, and impose stricter controls that affect everyone. It's a crime that reaches into the pockets of every honest customer, adding hidden costs to their financial lives. For the victims, it's not just about lost money. It's about lost trust. Banks are forced to implement more rigorous security measures, impacting how quickly we can access our funds. Small businesses, often the unsuspecting victims of check fraud, can find themselves in dire financial straits, sometimes leading to bankruptcy. Check kiting might seem like a clever trick at first, a way to stay afloat when times are tough. But in reality, it's a ticking time bomb. The moment you write that first bad check, the countdown begins. And when it explodes, the fallout is catastrophic, not just for the criminal, but for everyone caught in the blast radius. Please like, comment, subscribe to Securilo channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more intriguing stories.